Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Election Night 2024. Today we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the incumbent president and vice president, respectively, for the Democrats, versus Republican challenger Tulsi Gabbard from the state of Hawaii, and her running mate, cable news show host Tucker Carlson. And let's get into candidate positions. The incumbent President Biden and Harris, moderately populist, so the general, seen as establishment Democrat platform. They're they want to give aid to both Ukraine, which was ravaged by the war in 2 years ago, and also to Taiwan, which was invaded by the People's Republic of China in last year, 2023. In the spring. They want to federally ban misinformation and make it punishable criminally to spread misinformation, especially medical, and misinformation that influences elections in any way. They want to, they believe the borders are already secure and nothing else needs to be done about it, and alleging anything else is a racist and sexist attack. Crime is not. They point out that crime is not actually going up, contrary to the quote unquote GOP fear mongering. They point out they are very teachers first. They have because parents are not professional educators. They're pro-LGBT rights. They are for abortion with zero limits, on demand and without apology, and including partial birth. They're for equity above all. They're for just allowing the oppressed identities to actually have some revenge, or at least some both revenge and also some increased standards, even if it means lowering it for everyone else. But they're for vaccine mandate nationwide, and because people who, especially in the wake of the new variant from China, which has been devastating in the last year, 2023, and they are pro-gun control. They are against, they don't want people waving guns everywhere. Now, as with the Gabbard Carlson ticket, this is a pretty unusual ticket for the Republican side. Usually, that they're super populist and they are really pro worker union. Trump was beginning to shift it that way, but he was still didn't do too much, and Gabbard is just and Carlson are just a whole new level of that. They are anti-intervention, anti-war, and anti-aid. They want to ban big tech censorship and make it a crime to censor and break up big tech. They insist there is a problem on the border. They want to finish the wall. They insist that crime is actually going up a tiny tad bit, and so they do need to be tough on crime. They are for parents first. They are against trans people playing women's sports, and against letting them transition when they're before they're 18. They are for banning late-term abortion and leaving alone everything else. This follows Tulsi Gabbard's long and rich record of this in Congress, and also with the trans sports thing. They say they prefer the common good above equity. They prefer raising everyone's living, in other words, raising everyone's living standards before raising that only of the minority with the expense of the majority, or no improvement to the majority. They want no vaccine mandates or lockdowns anywhere, and they are pro-gun. They are anti-gun control measures, even sensible measures. Quote-unquote common sense measures like red flag logs or background checks. So yeah, let's get into it. Today we have It is 7 o'clock p.m. on the Eastern the Eastern Standard Time, and we have poll closings out of 6 states. The first is Indiana. We can project that Tulsi Gabbard will win Indiana, and it's 11 electoral votes. She's projected to win by around 20 to 25 points. This is a greatly increased margin from Trump's 17-point win back in 2020, and from Romney's 11-point win back in 2012. Kentucky, 8 electoral votes. We can call right at poll closing. She's projected to win by 32 to 36 points. This is also a massive improvement from Trump's around 28% margin in 2020. Whereas good news for Joe Biden, we can call Virginia, formerly a competitive-ish battleground state, 13 electoral votes. We can now, in the year 2024, we can call it for Joe Biden and the Democrats at poll closing time. He is projected to win by 13 to 17 points. This is a vast improvement on his 10-point margin in 2020 and Clinton's 5-point margin in 2016. Meanwhile, this is perhaps a bit of a bad news for the Tulsi Gabbard campaign, is that South Carolina, usually it's too early to call, but it's also, it is even a little closer than expected. So South Carolina we cannot call right now. Georgia is also, it's become a swing state. It is too close to call. Biden narrowly in the lead, 16 electoral votes up for grabs, and this is some bad news for Biden. Vermont is still too early and too close to call, and Biden only holds a narrow lead over Gabbard. We're not saying that this state is going to be super competitive. We're saying that it's just it is just narrower than usual, so we cannot call it right at this moment. And the electoral map is right on your screen. We have 19 electoral votes confirmed for Republicans and 13 for the Democrats. So it is now half an hour later. It is now 7:30 p.m. EST. We have poll closing out of 3 states. And Ohio, this is some good news for the Tulsi Gabbard campaign. This former battleground state, we can now call right at poll closing time for Tulsi Gabbard. She's projected to win 17 electoral votes from the Buckeye State by 10 to 15 points. This is a vast improvement on Trump's 8-point margins in 2016 and 2020. And it really solidifies Ohio's trend into Republican territory. West Virginia, 4 electoral votes. It lost an electoral vote in the population assessment or census or whatever it was. And we can project at poll closing time, West Virginia, no surprise here. But the margin, she is projected to win by 47 to 52 points. And this is a vast improvement upon Trump's 40% margin in 2016 and 38% margin in 2020. It looks like her populism really helped her there, and her stance on the social issues. North Carolina, 16 electoral votes, too close to call. Biden holds a narrow lead, only around 0.1% separates them. 3% reporting. And the electoral vote is on your screen now. 40 electoral votes for Republicans, 13 for Democrats still. It is now 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have poll closing out of a bunch of states. This is the second biggest batch of poll closings for the night. And Tulsi Gabbard is projected to win combined 43 electoral votes from the following states: from Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Missouri. And her margins and the margins you can see on the right that she is projected to win each state by. In Alabama, 35 points is an improvement on Trump's 27-point margin. Mississippi, on the other hand, she is expected to regress, whereas Trump won it by around 17 points. Tulsi Gabbard is projected to only win it by around 10 to 13. Tennessee, her margin has improved. Oklahoma, her margin has shrunk. And in Missouri, her margin has improved. Missouri, Trump wanted around 17 points, Missouri. And Tennessee, Trump also won around 27 points. And for Joe Biden, combined 45 electoral votes. He wins Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and the District of Columbia. He, as with Maryland, his projected margin is about the same, or slightly higher than his margin in 2020. He is expected to do better in the state. Presumably, they do not take kindly to socialists, and this is why. Whereas in Delaware, he's expected to his home state, he's expected to regress. He literally could win the state by less than single digits. In New Jersey, he also could either regress or go forward slightly. He won about 17 points in 2020. In Connecticut, his margin has shrunk a bit. It is comparable to his Hillary Clinton's 2016 margin. In Massachusetts, his margin is about the same as 2020. In DC, his margin has shrunk. He won about 85 points in 2020, and now he's going to win it by 10 to 15 points less this year. Maine's first district. This is a first is too close to call. It's usually not, but there's a ton of progressives in the state, and Gabbard's doing exceptionally well for a Republican. And Maine's second district, we can actually call right at poll closing time. This formerly somewhat competitive district, she's expected to win this district by 10 to 15 points. This is an improvement on Trump's 8-point margins in 2016 and 2020. And Maine at large is too close to call. Biden narrowly in the lead, only by 0.1 points. New Hampshire, the Granite State's 4 electoral votes are too close to call. Biden narrowly leads by 0.4 points. Pennsylvania, the king of all battleground states in recent history, but not necessarily so much now. Too early to call. Gabbard holds a big lead, but this is because Republican areas are counting first. And her lead is expected to shrink massively. And we are not calling the state yet. We cannot call it. It is too early in the night. Rhode Island is usually a safe. We're not saying that this is too close to call at this moment. We are not saying the state is going to be won by Tulsi Gabbard. It is just too close to call at the moment. Because Gabbard is doing exceptionally well in the early polling, and we know there's a huge progressive Bernie vote in this region, and we suspected that some of the Bernie supporters, a significant portion of them, would switch their votes to Tulsi Gabbard over Biden due to her running to the economic left of Biden, which is unusual. It's unusual for a Republican to be running to the economic left of a Democrat, but since that is the story this time around, that's what happened. And similarly, Illinois, our home state of Illinois, 19 electoral votes is too close to call this hour. We are not saying this is going to go that this is some competitive swing state or it's going to go to Gabbard. We're saying we cannot call it at this hour. And Florida, this is some bad news for the Gabbard campaign, is that Florida is still too close to call. It's been trending heavily red in the recent years, but apparently not for this election. Gabbard only holds a narrow lead, about a point over Biden, with 70% reporting. So, despite the red trends, we cannot call Florida at this hour, and this is going, and this is still going to be pretty competitive, contrary to what DeSantis's 20% win in 2022 in the governor's race might have led people to believe. So sort of despite the red trends, this is still competitive this cycle. Presumably, we've seen in the polls she's getting crushed with Cubans, because they do not take kindly to the socialist rhetoric and the super left economics. Nonetheless, the fact that she holds a lead in the state still is pretty good. And now South Carolina, we can finally call for Tulsi Gabbard. She's some bad news for her is that she is projected to regress in this state. Trump won. This is an underperformance compared to Trump's 10-point margin in the state in 2020. And Georgia, this is a very early call. We can call this for Joe Biden, and he's projected to win by 3 to 8 points. This is a huge improvement on his 0.2% margin in 2020. And Vermont, we can finally call this 3 electoral votes for Joe Biden. However, it's a vast underperformance considering he won the state by 30 points in 2020, but now he's projected to win by little more than 10. It's about a 20-point difference. Somewhat expected because of the progressive vote in the state. Many of them switched their votes to Tulsi Gabbard. And now the electoral map is on your screen. 93 electoral votes for Republicans, 77 for Democrats. It is 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have poll closings out of the great state of Arkansas, Bill Clinton's home state. In Arkansas, we can project for Tulsi Gabbard 6 electoral votes. She's projected to win by 30 to 35 points. This is an improvement from Trump's 26% margin in 2020. And Illinois, we can finally project for Joe Biden 19 electoral votes are in our home state. This home state of Flagramata Productions, of FAP elections. And he is projected to underperform in the state massively. He won the state by 17 points in 2020, but he's now projected to he could win by single digits or lower double digits. Rhode Island, and we can finally project this for Joe Biden, and he's also projected to underperform in this state. He won the state by 20 points in 2020, now he could literally win by nearly a lean margin, barely a likely margin, or barely safe. So, electoral map is on your screen. 99 for Republicans, 100 for Democrats. Only one electoral vote separating them so far. So, a very close election indeed. Just to show you how close it is. 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have more poll closings. And this is the biggest batch of poll closings of the night. Tulsi Gabbard wins 27 combined electoral votes from Louisiana, Kansas, Nebraska, 4 of their 5 electoral votes, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. Her win in Louisiana is an improvement from Trump's 2020 margins, whereas in Kansas it is a vast underperformance. Trump won the state by 17. Tulsi will win the state by... She could even win by single digits to the lower upper digits, because this is a very fiscally conservative state, not very much a socially conservative state. So she's doing relatively poorly in the state for a Republican. Presumably, it's because she's not economically, she's not fiscally right wing. Nebraska, she's doing about the same as Trump in 2020. North Dakota, South Dakota, she's improved on Trump's margin in each state, whereas in Wyoming, she has regressed significantly. Trump won the state by 47 points. Tulsi will do about 5 to 10-ish points worse. In Maine's 1st district, we can finally call this for Joe Biden, but the margin is a lot closer than usual. He won this district by around 20 points. It's a very urban district. It's got a lot of Bernie supporters who switched their vote to Tulsi, and you can see that in the fact that Biden could win by single digits in this once very safe Democrat district. And New York, 28 electoral votes from the Empire State. Lee Zeldin was who nearly won the governor's race in 2022. Was considered one of Tulsi Gabbard's top VP picks. She ended up going with Tucker Carlson, for which she had a better working relationship with, for obviously reasons. But and Lee Zeldin was campaigning for her, sort of to repay the favor for his governor's race, and it paid off a bit, because Biden is projected to regress significantly in this state. He won this state by 22 points in 2020, and now he's projected to win by only 15 to 20. Florida, we can finally call this state. 30 electoral votes. We don't have the results, but I mean, we don't have the raw count on the screen, but it is about 90% in the results, and we're projecting the Sunshine State for Tulsi Gabbard. It looks like it is once again competitive, contrary to our expectations. But Gabbard is expected to do significantly worse in this state. She could win by as little as 1 point, or possibly by as much as 7. We're uncertain given how the remaining 10% will go, but it looks like her economic policies did not help in the state. But nonetheless, she still carries it, even by the skin of her teeth, which is a relief for the Gabbard campaign. Nebraska's 2nd district, 1 electoral vote is too close to call. Biden with a narrow 3-point lead. Michigan, 15 electoral votes, too close to call. Gabbard leads by about 0.6 points, a little more than half a point. Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes, too close to call. At this hour, Gabbard leads by 5 points so far, but not very much of the vote has been counted. Minnesota, 10 electoral votes up for grab. Gabbard leads by 0.1 points. Colorado. This state is trending heavily blue, but this is a bad sign for the Biden campaign. It is too close to call at this hour. Despite how blue is trending, there's a lot of Bernie vote in this state, and Gabbard is only 4 points behind in the raw vote total right now. New Mexico, 5 electoral votes. It is too close to call. Biden leads by 0.1 points. This is also a bad sign for the Biden campaign. Because New Mexico, Biden won this by 10 points, and now is too close to call. In 2020, he won it by 10 points. Arizona, on the other hand, is too early to call. Biden has a wide lead of 21 points in the raw vote, but very little has been counted, and his lead is expected to shrink. But will it be enough for Gabbard to overcome it? We shall see. It is too early to call at this moment. 11 electoral votes in Arizona. And Texas also, it is too close to call. Very little has been counted, but Gabbard only leads by the skin of her teeth. She only leads by 0.3 points in a state that is trending rapidly blue and which doesn't take kindly to socialist economic policies. So this is not a good sign for the Gabbard campaign, but if she can hold on she needs Texas to win. If she can hold on in Texas, she definitely could win this, but if she loses Texas, she's done. And she loses to Biden, to a heavily disapproved president who's sitting at a 35% approval rating currently. And electoral map is on your screen now. The Democrats 132, 156 for the Republicans, 142 uncalled, and 108 outstanding. Poll closing. It is now 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have poll closing out of 4 states. Iowa is formerly battleground state. 6 electoral votes. It's been called for Tulsi Gabbard at poll closing time. We can project she will win by 13 to 18 points. This is a vast improvement on Trump's 10-point margins in 2016 and 2020. Montana, 4 electoral votes. Tulsi Gabbard, the winner. She will win by 24 to 28 points. And this is an improvement on Trump's 22% margin in 2020. Utah, 6 electoral votes. We can call this for Tulsi Gabbard. No surprise there. But the margin? She is expected to regress massively. Trump won this state by 30 points. Gabbard is only projected to win it by a little more than 10. Still a win nonetheless, but that is a bad sign for the state's prospects in the future, especially if Tulsi Gabbard wins and other people continue to run for the Republican Party. Nevada, battleground state, too close to call. At this hour, Gabbard leads by around 2 points. And we can now call New Hampshire. Earlier, it was too close to call earlier, but we can now call this for Tulsi Gabbard, and she's projected to win by a wide 3 to 7% margin, which is pretty unprecedented for a Republican in the state of New Hampshire. But it looks like her libertarian and anti-war appeal really did help her. Maine at large, we can also call 2 electoral votes for Tulsi Gabbard. She's projected to win by a tilt margin of less than 1 point, but it is a win nonetheless. And a Republican has not won Maine since around the 1990s. And Pennsylvania, the king of all battleground states, not so much this time. Tulsi Gabbard, we have called this very early in the night, relatively to when we usually call it. Gabbard is projected to win the state by 4 to 6 points. And the electoral map is on your screen now. 129 for Democrats, 197 for Republicans, approaching the 200 mark. When it is now 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have poll closings in the Pacific states. California, 54 electoral votes for Joe Biden. He's projected to win. He's projected to regress in the state. He won the state by 30 points in 2020, but now he only wins by 20 to 25. Presumably, this was the Bernie vote that switched to Tulsi. In Oregon as well, we also see regression for Joe Biden. He won the state by 17 points in 2020. Now he's projected to win by possibly even in the single digits. And Washington, an even more progressive state. He won the state by 20 points in 2020, and now he's projected to win by only barely a likely margin. Barely more than a lean margin. Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard's home state. This is somewhat of an embarrassment for the Tulsi campaign, but it's expected nonetheless. Nonetheless, the fact that the margin is massively down is a good sign for the Gabbard campaign, because Joe Biden won this state by 25 points in 2020, and now he's projected to win by only in the tens. Idaho, we can project this for Tulsi Gabbard at this hour for electoral votes. In the potato state, the gem state as well, the projected margin has shrunk. From 2020, because Trump won the state by 30 points. Gabbard's projected to only win it in the low 20s. And Wisconsin, the king of all populist states, 10 electoral votes, going massively for Tulsi Gabbard, but by 6 to 8 points. This is a massive margin for a Republican. No Republican has won the state by this margin in a long time. Just flipped Wisconsin back to the Republicans and has really solidified its redward trend with that massive margin that's been projected. It really looks like her populism and her anti-war rhetoric really helped her in the state, and also with Pennsylvania as well. You can see two Rust Belt states that are crucial to victory have gone Tulsi Gabbard's way. Although only one electoral vote separates Republicans and the Democrats in the electoral map. 210 for the Democrats and 211 for Republicans. And now it is midnight, and we can finally project Colorado. 10 electoral votes for Joe Biden. His margin is a vast underperformance. He won this state by 14 points in 2020. Now he's projected to win in the single digits by possibly even a lean margin. Michigan, 15 electoral votes projected to go Republican this cycle by 2 to 4 points. It's a pretty big margin for Republicans in this state. Texas, we can finally project. This was going down to the wire, but 40 electoral votes is a relief for the Tulsi Gabbard campaign, although their margin has shrunk considerably. Trump won the state by around 6 points, whereas that is only her floor this time. Her ceiling this time. She could win the state by as little as 2, which is a lean margin, more likely. But nonetheless, she got over the hump, which clears her way. So this is a huge relief. Electoral map is on your screen now. Tulsi Gabbard, only 4 behind the magic number of 270 electoral votes. Democrats still at 220. At this point, it's looking like Democrats really have to win every other state across the board, except for maybe Alaska, to win. So right now we're seeing Tulsi Gabbard has like an 85% chance of winning the election at this point in the needle. It is now 1 a.m. and we have a call from the state of Alaska. Alaska, 3 electoral votes projected to go to Tulsi Gabbard. She's projected to win by 10 to 14 points, which is an improvement upon Trump's 9-point margin in 2020. It looks like her libertarian appeal got her the extra couple of points. And North Carolina, we can finally call for Tulsi Gabbard. She is not projected to win by 10 to 14. That is not correct. We apologize. She's projected to win by only around 0 to 2 points. A tilt margin. A tilt to lean margin. And we apologize for that error earlier, but we can now project that Tulsi Gabbard has been elected the 47th president of the United States. She will be the first female president, the first surprisingly Republican, the first Samoan, the first Hawaiian president, the first Hindu, and the first president to have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Tucker Carlson also makes history as the first vice president with no political experience, and the first vice president elected from the media and from a talk show. Fox News headquarters is jeering right now with Jubilee. Same cannot be said for the Biden HQ and CNN and MSNBC, or even the Young Turks. Surprisingly, even though economically they align very well, but not socially. The electoral map is on your screen now. 285 for Republicans, 220 for the Democrats. Tulsi Gabbard has gotten over the 270 magic number. She's gotten over the hump and has won. And now we have some state projections. It is November 6, 2024. It is the day after. It is noontime, the day after the election, and we can finally project New Mexico. Tulsi Gabbard is the apparent winner in New Mexico. She is projected to win by under a point, which is a tilt margin. 5 electoral votes going to the Republican column. And now, it is November 8th, 2024. This is 3 days after the election. We can call Nebraska's 2nd District, 1 electoral vote for Biden. He's projected to win by anywhere from 0 to 2 points. Minnesota, on the other hand, has flipped Republican for the first time since 1976. Tulsi Gabbard will win Minnesota, breaking the longest streak of Democratic votes for any state in recent history. It has ended in 2024 with Tulsi Gabbard. She has cracked and pierced the land of 10,000 lakes, and is projected to go to her by less than a point, a tilt margin. And now, it is April 2025. It is the year after, and Tulsi Gabbard has already been sworn in, and Tucker Carlson has already been sworn in as vice president. And we finally can call Nevada. We can call Nevada for Tulsi Gabbard. She's projected to win by 3 to 7 points. The Libertarian appeal helping her massively in this state. Please note, though, that only around half the vote is in, and it's probably going to take another year to count the other vote. But we feel enough from the results to call Nevada for Tulsi Gabbard at this hour. And now it is September 9, 3164. It is more than a century after the election, and we can finally call Arizona for Joe Biden, and he's projected to win by 4 to 8 points, a massive improvement on his 0.3% margin in 2020. Please note, though, that only around a third of the vote is in, but we nonetheless, we feel the network, and Fox News has already called Arizona for Joe Biden, so we feel the need to project it as well. We feel that 100 years afterward, it's probably going to take another 300 years to count, 200 years to count the remaining the remaining 2/3 of the vote, but we feel that Joe Biden is going to win this by 4 to 8 points. So, the electoral map is on your screen now. 306 votes for the Republicans, 232 for the Democrats. Very ironic, considering the last two elections were both won by 306 to 232 each. It keeps going back and forth in the very same amount. It's a pretty big coincidence. But as fate would have it. But who knows? I mean, we are more than 100 years after the election happened, so it doesn't matter. So, in the popular vote, please note there's still massive. Of course, it's still going to take another 1,000 years to count, and it is only around 88% in. But Gabbard leads in the popular vote by a little under 3 points. Third party vote was massive this time. The lot was going to the Green and the Libertarian parties. Well, not the Green and Libertarian. Sorry, no. The Libertarian and the Green Party ironically endorsed Gabbard, because she was both libertarian and very environmentally friendly, and populist. But whereas the Constitution Party, the fiscally conservative parties, they all ran, more fiscally conservative candidates like Evan McMullen, like Adam Kinzinger, like this Liz Cheney in Wyoming, and they actually got considerable portions of the vote. So that is why neither Maine candidate is over 50% in the popular vote. Just like in 2016, the third party vote went up massively, despite the Green and Libertarian Party actually uniting behind the Republican candidates. But nonetheless, Gabbard wins by about 3 points in the popular vote. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is my second election night, and my first serious one. So, want me to make more election nights? Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you later.